Welcome back. Now, from Union Bank, we're moving over to the Plateau. Residents in Plateau states have continued to experience incessant attacks on their communities. Toddlers, children, women, actually, nobody seems to care as long as they get people murdered, and this murdering is done in cold blood. Bodies of the dead have been given mass burial as attacks heighten tension in the state. The state governor, Darius Ishaku, laments that they're being neglected by government, federal government that is, and by security agencies. And he has called on Amnesty International and the International Red Cross to come to their aid. The University of Jos was also not spared, as undergraduates were reportedly killed when violence renewed. Now, we have in the studio the Commissioner for Information over on the Plateau, Mr. Yakubu Datti, an old friend of the House. Good morning, and thank you for joining us, albeit to talk about something not quite pleasant. Good morning, Mr. Datti.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity.
We also have Kate Pam, who is a Plateau indigene. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Mr. Datti, this is a very sad situation, and it looks like sometimes we will get news that things are getting better, and then all of a sudden they then escalate, and it looks like there seems to be no solution to this problem. So what is the situation at the moment?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I like to start by saying that there was a little error where the governor of Taraba, the name was mentioned as our governor. Governor of Plateau State is Right Honorable Simon Bakola. And I know that's not
apologies.
No, that is okay. Basically, that is the question that is in everybody's lips. This crisis started almost 2 decades now, and it has survived almost, this is the third administration that has had to do it. And what Governor Simon Lalong has done differently has brought out peace in the state for the past 3.5 years until the upsurge. First and foremost is to put the structures into place. First, the Peace Building Agency was created and is the first of its kind in West Africa as I speak, to be able to identify early warning signals and also to bring people on the table so that there will be dialogue. And that has achieved a lot. And subsequently, as the elections come closer, you begin to see an upsurge of this crisis. As I speak with you just yesterday, there was also a dialogue organized by the Catholic Archbishop of Jos, Egama, where the royal fathers like the Bongon Jos and the governor and all the warring factions were also on the table discussing on the need for peace, because we know that if for any peace process to be sustainable, it must be driven by the people themselves. There must be a decision for us to live in peace, and that is why the issue of dialogue and peace process is on the front burner. And so far, it has been yielding a lot of success, because the people involved are the ones that are now charting the course. The STF commander too, General Augustine Agondu, as also, and the police commissioner and the other agencies, NGOs are also on the table putting, their best. I recall that I even attended one of the workshops where the STF commander had a meeting with the leaders, or the youth leaders, the different religious leaders, where he also kept the guns aside and moved on the issue of peace building. I like to say also at this point that one of the issues that is escalating it is most of the stories that go on social media, and you begin to see people who are not even resident there. They may be from Plateau, beginning to act on the information they see, and that in itself escalates.
Let me ask this: if there's this is part of what goes on social media, some people were killed recently. 14 people were killed in the Rukuba area of the state, and then the JTF asking, or the STF asking residents of some communities to vacate within 48 hours their residences. Is that part of what's making it on social media?
No, yeah, well, you see, some of it is...
Were people asked to vacate their residences because they were protesting the late response of the military?
No, they are disjoint, they are not connected.
Okay.
The issue of the killing in Rukuba Barracks was what escalated what happened across some of the places. So the places that were concerned, there were curfew that was imposed immediately for the military to be able to carry out their, investigations. The issue of telling people to exercise, that's a different area that has to do with the investigation on the Army General whose car was found and we're looking.
That is another recent incident.
Pond. Yeah, the famous pond. So that is separate from the...
But it wasn't just the Army General that's being searched for. That was what we say that sparked up the search in that area. But then discovering that 11 cars and 2 corpses were found in that pond, is it something that the state has never known about?
Well, this is purely a military operation, and the military sent a team direct from their headquarters. And you know, as a state, we cannot interfere or participate or have information on what the military is doing, because they say this is a purely military operation. You also know that we have... Yes, in a civil environment. You also know that we have our constraints as a government, because you cannot give orders to an institution that takes instruction directly from the central government. But what we do is try to collaborate and also try to create soft landing for the civil community that is there. And that is why today, as I speak with you, the kind of reactions that happens when such happen, like you remember Zaki Biam and the rest, did not happen in the state, because we're also exploiting back channels of communication to be able to plead in terms of the military operation to have some human face, and also not to come down so hard on the civil populace, but also being careful not to interfere in the investigation.
Okay.
We'll come back to you about that area, the civil relations. Kate, you're from the Plateau.
Yes,
You've been somewhat watching things from the outside, but in your own view, what would it take to bring about calm on the Plateau?
Thank you very much. Well, I would say, whilst I am normally resident in Abuja, I have been very hands-on in the ongoing activities in Plateau State. In fact, right from the crisis that happened in June, we've had to mobilize some relief materials to the IDP camps. And right now, within those camps, there are over 3,000 children who are out of school, out of their homes, who have been displaced. And thankfully, a representative of the government is sitting here, and he might be able to tell us what the government is doing regarding that. But you see, all these crises, all these spates of violence that are happening now are presenting problems, because right from the time of the 2001 crisis, I don't think that the government has been able to get to the bottom of the problem, to be able to deal with the root cause of the problem. So when there's peace, it's just graveyard peace. And a little aggravation will spark off so much. And talking about the pond is a mining crater. I mean, there are many of such ponds in Plateau State. That was the reason for the ecological fund that that was given, I think, during Darius' government or something. There's so many of them, and those ponds are as a result of mining activities. So invariably, this problem is a failure of the state, because had they done what needed to have been done in the time, these issues would not have arisen in the first place. And there's a loss of trust. The people do not trust the government. But word on the street, when you listen to people are saying, oh, so the military can swoon into action